I am going to answer your questions that you guys asked in my Q&A on Mastodon. My name is Henry. I've been working with privacy and security for years here on Techlore. And let's dive into the questions. First question is from Matthew. I know Discord is a nightmare for privacy. What are ways to have more privacy on Discord, and what should we look out for? I think Discord's privacy concerns fall into two buckets. The first bucket is just raw data that you optionally give to Discord when you send a message either in a DM or in a public server, or when you join a video chat, or when you join an audio chat, or whatever. And that's being collected, and there's really no avoiding that. You just have to acknowledge that there's no end-to-end encryption on Discord. The best way to mitigate that is to just be aware of the issue and use things like Signal if you want more privacy on that front. The second bucket, we do have some things to do, and this is more of the stuff that happens around your messages. Things like the browser you're using, or the operating system you're using, your IP address, telemetry data collection. The first thing I'd recommend in that second bucket is to avoid installing Discord native clients on any of your devices. That means on your desktop, use the web. On mobile, just try to avoid using the apps if possible. From there, make sure you enable 2FA on your account, ideally TOTP. Try to have an alias email if possible. If you're lucky, see if you can set up an alias phone number, though I doubt they'll accept it. Make sure you have a strong password on your account. And you can toggle those superficial privacy settings off as well, though like we covered in our Discord video that covers its privacy concerns, it's pretty superficial at that. The last thing I'll say is that if you're using something like Brave, or if you're using something like uBlock Origin, you can actually manually disable some of the telemetry that Discord does. There are things like open source Discord clients that you can interact with, but proceed with caution, you might get your account. Bam. Next question is from Kai. Most custom ROMs, which are like variants of Android that you can install, are not an option in my country due to compatible devices availability, and Apple is too expensive. Do you have any tips for someone trying to de-Googlify, weird word, while being stuck with Android? So there's not much to do because Google Play Services is this proprietary black box that's found on pretty much every Android device outside of maybe some custom ROMs. Try to make sure you're disabling anything you can in your settings and disabling permissions and disabling features you don't need.
Oh wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
We're going to start off with a quick update. Apple faces their fourth iPhone privacy lawsuit after a Gizmodo story. I gotta quote this article because it's so passive aggressive. I love it. Quote, Apple is famous for breaking records, and apparently it's just as competitive when it comes to getting sued. The company was just hit with a fourth class action lawsuit over accusations of surreptitious iPhone data collection. 3 of those lawsuits were filed in January alone. Impressive, unquote. This is again what I was referencing earlier. Apple, for those who missed it, it's somewhere in your settings that says that you're opting out of like submitting personal data for advertising, I believe. And basically late last year, some researchers found that they completely ignore that setting and they still submit the data anyways. And it actually includes enough data that it can identify. I think it includes your Apple ID or something. Like it's data that's identifiable. So there's really no excuse for that, and now Apple is getting a ton of lawsuits over it. Google is paying Indiana $20 million to resolve a privacy suit. Well, I guess it is controversial because we all know Google can pay more. So once again, this goes back to the allegation that Google continues to track users even when they disable the location history toggle on their Android phones. 40 states got together to mount a huge lawsuit back in November to the tune of $391.5 million. But apparently that stalled out. So Indiana just struck out solo and filed a separate lawsuit, which has already been settled. Boy, that was fast. Man, the government really moves when they want to. This is actually twice as much money as Indiana would have received had they stuck with the group suit. So I guess that's a win for them. And as usual, Google did not admit any wrongdoing as part of the settlement.
I would recommend to just accept the situation a little bit here and do the best that you can on the phone that you currently have, and then down the road, see if there's a better option. Up next, Greenman36. What would be the quickest way to improve someone's privacy and security? The way I like to break this down, especially for new people, is you have security, which enables privacy, which enables anonymity. For people brand new to this world, normally we start them at just basic security because most people don't do basic security. Normally my first place I start with people is having a safe place to communicate. So that means something that's end-to-end encrypted. I almost always use Signal. From there, it's normally about the browser, so people have a safer browser, and Brave normally is a really nice selling point for me because it's like, hey, you already use Chrome. Brave is based on Chromium and it works just like Chrome, but it's just better and more private. Several questions from Gene. The first one, what were some of the toughest things for you when you started on your privacy journey? Honestly, probably the absolute toughest thing for me, both back then and today, is the nature of this. People, it is extremely difficult to live the privacy and security life that I want to live when I'm literally constantly uploading to YouTube. I am in a very happy place with my privacy and security journey, so go me. But I've had to make so many sacrifices to get here, and there's still a lot of things I wish I could do that I feel like I can't do because it would go against my current threat. This actually was pretty much that whole why I moved to stock Android video back in the day. And this happens all the time behind the scenes back here. I'm constantly engaging with tools I'd rather not engage with. Next question from Gene. What were some of the mistakes you made along the way that you wish you would have known about beforehand? Two things. One, complexity, and two, sustainability. When I say complexity, I'm gonna give you a story here. So we used to use the Adobe suite for our content. Not anymore. Adobe's trash. Now, for those who don't know, Adobe doesn't offer native Linux support. I didn't want to use Windows at all. I told myself I hate Windows. I don't want to give Microsoft any data. So pretty much I experimented with all these different Adobe options on Linux. You know, I tried Wine, I tried just generic VMs, and eventually people in my Discord community helped me set up. By the way, thanks to all of you, I ended up actually successfully setting up this GPU pass-through configuration. It was a mess, it took days to get it set up, and also, like, some Arch updates just completely broke the VM. The amount of time that I poured trying to make that configuration work was time that I could have put more content out for you all. When I'm looking at people's privacy and security journey, especially when I'm doing coaching or consulting with individuals, it's more about, okay, how are we going to make these changes so that you can have like a realistic, sustainable privacy and security journey when we're done? The second part of sustainability is it's not just about me, it's about services that I'm using. So I'm not gonna name names, but I used to use certain services back in the day that were run by just people, you know, maybe in just their house or their basement. After like 6 months, they just disappeared. And I already moved all my data into those services. I completely became dependent on those services. And you know what? Those services actually were pretty awesome and they gave me awesome privacy and security perks, but there was no really team behind it. When you choose to engage with a service, do you want to engage with a service you're going to have to move away from in 6 months? Or do you want to choose something that's going to be around in 5 years? So make sure you're picking things with public teams that have a solid history and ideally have some kind of money or method of staying alive that you can trust or get behind. How can I ensure that my social media profiles are secure and not exposing too much personal information? So we're gonna start with the basics here, so make sure you're trying to use alias information when possible. So with Facebook, try to use something like simple login to hide your email. Future Geek, do you think blogging under one's own name is a privacy and security concern at all? Is using a pseudonym better?
Is this guy a retard?
Well, yes, from a privacy perspective, using a pseudonym is almost always better, but if it's a concern, is totally in your court, and this is why we talk about threat modeling. We have a threat modeling guide, go watch it. What threat modeling is you have to decide what are your concerns in your privacy and security journey, and what are you going to do to protect yourself from those concerns. For some people, using their public name online for a blog or whatever is an absolute no-no. To answer your question, yes, from a privacy perspective, using a pseudonym is almost always better than not using one because that's inherently more private, but just because it's inherently more private doesn't mean you inherently have to do it.
Is this guy a retard?
Linux laptops are a little hard to find, so while buying a laptop, what are the things I should look for if I'm going to only use Linux? Man, I'll tell you what not to look for, and it's anything that has to do with NVIDIA.
NVIDIA, fuck you.
I know it's been getting better over the last few years, but honestly, having to use Linux with an NVIDIA graphics card several years ago, I'm done. To share my own experience here, I purchased 3 laptops, and not one of them did I do research on before I purchased them on whether or not they were Linux compatible. I just assumed they were. And all 3 of them were compatible with every Linux distro I tested on all of them. But if you're really concerned, you can probably just go online and type a quick search of the laptop model or maybe the brand or a similar model to see if it's compatible with a Linux distribution. Also, pro tip, buy things with some kind of return policy, because then if you buy it and it doesn't work, you can just return it. If you like this content, check out Go Incognito, which is our course that takes you from start to finish on the privacy and security journey. The goal of the course is so that you leave with your own independence and you don't have to rely on other people, so that you make your own privacy and security decisions because you have the fundamental knowledge and information to make those calculated decisions yourself. It's actually free to watch on YouTube, but if you want the premium experience, I highly suggest going with Go Incognito Premium, which comes with its own course ecosystem, and you can directly engage with me in the comments.
Like, man, if I had a way to like do all this content and not have to deal with any communities, I would totally take that option personally. You know, like, I would love to be able to somehow like give people a safe place to talk without me needing to be a part of it, because it does affect the stuff we do and it like sucks. Never stop making these vids, bro. Love them. Thank you very much. I'm glad you like the videos. It's good to hear that too, because, you know, I don't always want to make content or videos. Sometimes I wish I could do other things with my life. So it really helps a lot to hear like the positive comments. This question is from Alan. It's for both of us. I'll start. It's, what would you say is the hardest part of managing, running, creating content on your respective blogs or videos? How do you address these challenges? There's a lot of challenges from different angles. Like, it's hard to manage people. It's hard to manage my team. It's hard to manage myself. I have kind of lived my own life over here with my own schedule, which is awesome and gives me full autonomy, but I have to stay on top of things as well, which is really hard to do sometimes when you don't have external influences that require you to be there on days that you don't want to be there.